द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशम् तत्त्वमस्याधिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलम् सर्वधी साक्षिभूतम् भावाधीतं त्रिगुणरं तद्गुरुं तं नमामि. Nithyananda everyone, welcome you back to another extraordinary Bhava Samadhi Darshan. This time we are going to be having the Bhava Samadhi Darshan of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism himself, of Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam. So as we enter into today's program, we're going to be learning more and more about what exactly is Bhava Samadhi Darshan. And we have a very special program planned out today, entering into the star gate of Kailasa. We're going to be leading all of you step by step, first with the powerful cognitions, as well as the meditation process to directly help you raise your frequency and be in the same frequency as Kailasa. But before we enter into the program directly, I'd like to share with you news which has come out a couple of days back and which have continuously been going viral on social media as well. The first news is the recognition and the clarifications from Interpol and by a media publication department called the News Minute Media. The News Minute Media has acquired the letters from Interpol directly, stating and debunking all the false rumors and propaganda surrounding that the gossip which was being spread that there was an Interpol notice issued against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. The post is there in the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's official Facebook page, and you can go and visit it for yourself, and all the references and the official letters from Interpol are listed there directly. So you can see and go and read for it yourself. We have it here being projected on the screen right now. Media reveals the truth about no Interpol notice against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam. The Interpol has debunked the spate of disinformation in media of any Interpol notice or any diffusion against Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam in deference to the fact that he is the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and head of the state of the United States of Kailasa. The persecution of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has been recognized by United Nations, international bodies, and multiple countries. After baseless rumors spread about the Interpol notices being issued against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, media like the News Minute have revealed the truth of no Interpol notice against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, along with the clear evidence of letters directly from the Interpol on the same matter. So actually, if you can see the letters by Interpol being linked as a part of the document. Yes, as you can see here, both the letters, one in the year 2021 and one of recent 2022. Both these letters given by the Interpol themselves, clarifying and debunking all the false rumors and false media claims that an Interpol notice has been issued against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. You can go and read for all this information for yourself in the Facebook. This post is featured post, which means it will be at the very top of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's Facebook page. You can go and read it there for yourself. The next exciting news which we have, which we want to share with all of you, and which has been going viral all over the social media, is a recognition by the United Nations. United Nations has published another report on the persecution of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, on Kailasa's Gurukuls and Kailasa's children and women. The report on the special rapporteur on the report on the special rapporteur on the sale and sexual exploitation of children, including child prostitution, child pornography, and other child sexual abuse material on reparation for child victims and survivors of sale and sexual exploitation. The weaponization of sexual violence targeting women and children, especially of minority traditions, is part of a more pervasive and systematic campaign targeting certain indigenous spiritual traditions, minority communities, and their leaders. One such indigenous community is the AIASMT community. Yes, here you can see the from the official United Nations website where these posts and the reports have been published of Kailasa and of the persecution which is being faced by Kailasa and the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. Yes, here you can see the report on the sexual rapture on the sale and sexual exploitation of children, including child prostitution, child pornography, and other child sexual abuse material on reparation for child victims and survivors of sale and sexual exploitation. So, apart from this, the other reports which were published on the United Nations were on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and on Kailasa's Nithyananda Gurukul. All of these also are linked in the Facebook page, which this is also a featured post, which means it will be there on the top of the Facebook channel. And if you go and see, you can read for all the reports by yourself, and you can the links where it's being published in the United Nations as well has also been linked in the Facebook post. So all of this is free for you, and please do take a few moments to share this with your friends, family, and social circle as well, spreading the good news and the recognition which the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is receiving, that the international bodies are coming to understanding and coming to the realizations of the illegal persecution and the destruction which is happening on minority traditions of Hinduism. And so with this, we're going to be entering into the grand narrative of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was born on the 3rd of January 1978 in the holy town of Tiruvannamalai in South India. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism in the year 1981 was given the initiation into the Bala Sannyas, which is the child saint initiation in Hinduism by enlightened beings and masters and the predecessors of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was a tender age of 3 when he received this initiation into the Bala Sannyas. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was identified as an incarnation by enlightened beings and masters such as Yogi Raj Yogananda Puri, Vidwan Panduranganar, and the 230th Guru Mahasannidhanam of Tonde Mandaladinam of the Kanchi Mutt. These are the various people who recognize the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism as the incarnation of Paramashiva and trained the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism from a young age to revive the Kailasa nation. At the age of 16, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the successor of Arunachala Sarvangapitam by his Vedanta guru, Mata Vibhudananda Puri, also lovingly called as Mataji Kuppammal. You can see here there is a conch, a kamandalu, the water pot, and the wooden staff being presented to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, which are the traditional items which are passed down from guru to disciple as part of the induction as the successor into the lineage. You can see here in the photographs the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism standing with Mata Vibhudananda Puri, as well as the coronation photo of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism being inducted as the successor of Arunachala Sarvangapitam. We are now going to be looking at the early days in the mission of the Nithyananda and the early days of the revival of Kailasa. Here we have leftmost a black and white photo of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism at a very young age building the first temple monastery complex of his guru, Mata Vibhudananda Puri, with his own bare hands, brick by brick, under the guidance of his gurus. Later in the years to come, in the year 2001, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, after starting the public life, inaugurated and founded the first Adinam, the first temple monastery complex in Tiruchengodu, South India. This was a historic moment, and it happened on the 14th of April 2021. If you see on the photo, in the left-hand bottommost corner, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, in his own handwriting, has annotated the event, the special occasion, the historic moment, and in his own handwriting, noted down the date as well as the happening of the day. A year later, on the 4th of November, when the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was 24 years of age, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism established the Adi Kailasa Sarvangapitam, the headquarters in South India. By the year 2004, when the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was 26 years of age, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism started conducting the mass living enlightenment initiation conventions all across the globe in various cities and countries around the world. These processes included taking people through powerful cleansing processes of the seven energy bodies. In the year 2005, at the age of 27, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was welcomed with the proclamation message by the Mayor of St. Louis, Francis G. Slay. Yes, here we can see more glimpses of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism conducting the mass living enlightenment conventions in various parts of the world. Here, during the Kumbh Mela festival, which is one of the world's largest celebrated festivals, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is initiating thousands and thousands of people into the mass living enlightenment. To all those who had gathered, all those who had come and visited and was a part of the Kumbh Mela celebration, both in the years 2015 in the Nashik Kumbh Mela and 2016 in the Ujjain Kumbh Mela. Here we are looking at the various coronations received by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. The first coronation the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism received was at a very young age of 10, where the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was ordained as the 233rd Guru Mahasannidhanam of the Tonde Mandaladinam of Kanchi Kailasa Sarvagnapeetham. In the year 2004, on December 31st, Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the incumbent emperor of Suryavamshi Surangi Samrajya. In the following years, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the present 23rd Guru Mahasannidhanam of Dharmamukti Swarga Paramadinam. In the year 2012, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the 293rd Jagat Guru Mahasannidhanam of Kailas Sonatha Shyamlapita Sarvagnapeetham. In the year 2013, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the present Mahamandaleshwar, which is the supreme spiritual head of Mahanirvani Akhada, which is the largest apex monastic order. In the year 2013, again, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the 1008th Acharya Mahamandaleshwar, which is the head of all spiritual leaders of the Atal Akhada, which is the ancient apex body of Hinduism. In the year 2015, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was elected as the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism by a congregation of over 1,000 Hindu pontiffs, Hindu leaders. Here we're going to be understanding more about the United States of Kailasa. Kailasa is a macrocosmic ancient Hindu enlightenment nation whose vision is living enlightenment for all of humanity. Kailasa's mission is to revive and share with today's world the practical applications of the greater sciences of authentic Hinduism, including Hindu cosmic physics, Hindu alchemy, Hindu cosmology, Hindu biology, Hindu mathematics, the power manifestation science, and other sciences as revived by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. These sciences were once practiced freely in over 56 nations across the continent, but are now facing extinction due to the persecution which has happened over a millennium. Here we're looking at the 108 Sri Kailasas Uniting Nations initiatives, which are to support a variety of humanitarian services, which collectively allows for the creation of an enlightened, peaceful, sustainable, equitable, resilient. One of the projects which you're going to be looking at, which is initiated by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations, is the No Hungry Home project offered by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for nutritious food and a hunger-free world. Over the past 27 years, Kailasa has served more than 1 billion meals. Every month for the past 27 years, the Hindu ASMT community has organized 3 million Annadan services, which is the free organic meals as per tradition, and has served in religious gatherings to everyone without discrimination. Almost up to 10,000 meals are served on a daily basis free of cost, and this number rises to 100,000 on festival days. As you can see here in the various photographs, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism himself is actively involved in the Annadan service, with his own hands serving many of the devotees and disciples who has gathered. Here, we're looking at Kailasa's protective and preventive COVID care centers offered by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for affordable and holistic health care. During the pandemic, a global catastrophe in which everyone in this planet was affected and suffered from, it was only the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism who provided a safe haven for the whole of humanity, for the public to come and reside in the monastery, in the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's own monastery. Swamiji converted the monastery complexes into a multi-layer quarantine facility free for all people, regardless of any differences in age, gender, caste, creed, ethnicity, color, or social economic status. Facilities like food, shelter, internet, and free medical care and services were provided for all residents for an indefinite amount of time. More than 30 million citizens followed Kailasa's 28-day spiritual regimen in the year 2020. Here we have the offerings of the Nithyananda Hindu University and the Nithyananda Gurukul by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for education reform and development. The Nithyananda Hindu University was established by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and is the world's largest Hindu university. The Nithyananda Gurukul, which was inaugurated on the 2nd of October 2006, was inaugurated by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism for the revival of the ancient Adi Shaivite Guru-disciple education system, which is now based on the principles of enlightenment. The Nithyananda Hindu University has more than 20 million enrollments, 7,000 free courses, and extended campuses in more than 150 different countries. Here we have Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for the protection of Hindu scriptures, offering the Nithyananda Jnanalaya project and the Hinduismpedia. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism established the Nithyananda Hindu Jnanalaya project to collect and to preserve the 1 billion Hindu scriptures, while ensuring that knowledge is made accessible and shared free of cost to all, collecting and preserving 1 billion source books on Hinduism. The Kailasa's Hinduismpedia project was established by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has collected 15 terabyte of digital books and rare manuscripts from all 19 Saravanya Peetams, ancient mutts, and ashrams. More than 1 million pages on Hinduism, a collection of 22,000 digital books, 1,000 e-textbooks, and 100,000 articles on various topics of Hinduism. Not only that, but the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism himself has authored more than 1,000 books in 3 languages, which have been translated into 50 other different languages, has published more than 10,000 articles, and has given 10,000 hours of free discourses with a combined view of more than 1 billion. Here we can see Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for Global Peace and Religious Harmony, offering the confluences for world peace. In the year 2009, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism organized a month-long peace walk covering 1,000 kilometers and 1,000 villages to bring together in harmony from all walks of life, to promote feeling connection and oneness among people. And during the walk, health camps were conducted in villages along its path. As you can see here, thousands and thousands has gathered for the religious peace walk. Here we have women empowerment programs offered by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for feminine empowerment and gender equality. Kailasa's Yogini Sarvanya Peetam is the establishment of yoga and meditation universities to empower the quality of life and emphasis on life solutions through Vedas and Agamas, empowering the indigenous rural women, fighting against wrongful gender stereotyping, gender-based violence, and lack of inclusive quality learning environments. Some of the other initiatives also include Kailasa's Nithyananda Lakshmi, which is a microfinancing service, Kailasa's Ankita program, providing foundational literacy about the workings of various basic community services and infrastructural establishments. Kailasa's Ashriya program, providing vocational training programs to rural and indigenous women to provide equal opportunities and access to independent, self-sufficient financial environments for them. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has revived the Vedic feminism in Kailasa, where more than 80% of the leadership positions are occupied by women. Here we have Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for Yoga offering the Nithyananda Yoga. One of the many offerings in the Nithyananda Yoga are the Nithyananda Kriyas, which are 108 scientifically validated Kriyas revived by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, specifically targeting the 108 major disorders and diseases such as diabetes, arthritis, blood pressure, rheumatism, and more. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has also revived the ancient pole yoga, which is the Shivastambha yoga, and rope yoga, Kundalini Raju yoga, in which yogic asanas performed to create the yogic physiology, aligning it to the cosmic geometry that manifests superconscious powers. Not only that, but the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has also been awarded 2 Guinness World Records for the largest rope yoga, Kundalini Raju yoga, and largest pole yoga, Shivastambha yoga classes, bringing worldwide attention to these extraordinary forms of yoga. These Guinness World Records were awarded to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism on the 30th of September and 3rd of October, respectively. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, despite being heavily persecuted continuously for over a decade, has in his unwavering intention, commitment, and action in building the only Hindu nation, the sovereign state of Sri Kailasa, to protect, revive, and preserve Hinduism, the most ancient, most peaceful, still living, and long lasting demonstrable system that shows the possibility of a peaceful coexistence amongst people. Here we are witnessing one of the most historic moments in the history of the Kailasa nation. Kailasa, the first nation of Hindus led by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, spoke on behalf of the 2 billion global Hindu diaspora at the 14th session of the United Nations Forum on Minority Issues. A significant milestone in the history of Hindus and the sovereign state of Sri Kailasa happened on the 2nd of December 2021. His Excellency Sri Nityamoksha Priyananda, Honorary and Plenipotentiary of Kailasa, represented the persecution of Hindus at the 14th session of the United Nations Forum on Minority Issues. The theme of the forum was conflict prevention and the protection of human rights of minorities. This was the first time the plight of persecuted Hindu minorities was represented in the United Nations. The ongoing, systematic, generational attacks on Hindu indigenous traditions were highlighted as a part of the meeting. Here, we're looking at the intense lawfare and illegal harassment and unlawful persecution which has been ongoing on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism for more than a decade. Over 70 assassination attempts and physical attacks have been made on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism in India as well as in abroad. 40 attacks on community members, destruction of monasteries and temples, over 60 incidences of attacks, molestation, and rape of women and women monks, intense lawfare through the 100 false legal cases being put on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, intersectional persecution using the entire government mechanism, politically owned media, police, judiciary controlled by politicians, and inciting mob violence through social media. These are just but a few of the many ways the anti-Hindu elements, anti-spiritual elements had tried to assassinate, had tried to illegally persecute the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, unwavering and with his commitment and sacrifice for all of us, for all us Hindus and for the rest of humanity as well, has built and created the Hindu nation, Kailasa, establishing peaceful place where Hindus can live and practice authentic Hinduism. One of the major contributions this Hinduism is making for the superconsciousness growth of the whole world is the power manifestation science. In this next segment, we're going to be looking at the power manifestation science, how power manifestation works, as well as the scriptural references of power manifestation, and a live demo where here during this program in the next segment, we're going to be seeing a live demonstration of the powers of third eye and specifically the power of consciousness over matter. So stay tuned, we'll be back after a short break to demonstrate the science of power manifestation and to show the live demonstration of these powers.
A more intelligently connected world leads to a brighter future. An enlightened humanity leads to a better world. During the Paramashivam program, we help people to discover their superhuman possibilities and help them to find and achieve the true purpose of their birth by giving them the techniques, practices, and methodologies from the Vedagamas, the original source scriptures of Hinduism. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is reviving the ancient original Vedas and Agamas in all its glory, in a user-friendly way for the modern mind. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is transforming human beings into divine beings, reviving, initiating, and replicating the 463 powers from the Agamas revealed by Paramashiva. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is not just giving solutions for every problem man faces, but is making them irrelevant to their lives by transforming human beings into divine beings.
Listen. Any argument presented by your mind, body, your present reality to establish you are not Paramashiva. You are not omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. Anything presented to prove you are not Paramashiva is illegitimate. Decide this. This is super determinism. Understand? Anything you declare as illegitimate will lose power over you, will die in few days, few minutes, maybe in few weeks, whatever few days it takes. It will not have power over you. Understand, this is the method for sudden enlightenment. This is the method for sudden enlightenment. It happens by the Shaktipada. Here Paramashiva is sitting to tell you, you are Paramashiva, you are me, with Shaktipada and Shaktinipada.
The Dvitiya Vijnasa Krama is an extensive and thorough yoga sequence to prepare your body to receive the experience being given by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. Through the yoga, which is aligned as per the source scriptures laid down by Paramashiva and the Agamas, you break all the impossibility in your body and in turn break the very cognition of impossibility. The program leads you to go beyond your human frame and limiting human ideas, which prevents you from living your highest possibility.
I will reach you wherever you are, whichever corner of the world you may be. I will reach you with enlightenment.
Again I tell you, I am not here to prove I am God, I am here to prove you are God.
Don't wait to become divine. Register now at paramashivoham.org.
Nithyanandam to all the viewers watching us live on our social media platforms to this very powerful and beautiful session on the power manifestation science. So in this session we're going to have where we're going to understand the science of power manifestation. So power manifestation can be useful in our life, and the siddhis and the shaktis, the source of these powers, and ultimately we are going to be having a live demonstration of the powers of Paramashiva. So now let us enter into this segment. So first let's understand the science behind the power manifestation, how these powers have been given to the humanity by Paramashiva. In the source scriptures, the Vedagamas, Paramashiva reveals in elaborate detail that every human is hardwired to manifest the 463 Shaktis of Paramashiva. Manifesting Shaktis are described in a detailed Manifesting Shaktis are described in a detailed systematic method for human beings to explore the various possibilities that have been given to us by Paramashiva. Shaktis manifest from the fundamental cognition that you are Paramashiva and not the cognition that you are a human that you need to reach Paramashiva. So now we are going to be seeing the difference between the Shaktis and the Siddhis. Shaktis express from the space of enlightenment, whereas the Siddhis manifest from the process of getting enlightenment when you perform various penance and you are striving for enlightenment. Some things that manifest at that time are the Siddhis and permanent, whereas the Siddhis are not permanent, and the Shaktis manifest through any human being, whether they are of any caste or any race or any background. After the initiation of the enlightened master or the incarnation, any human can manifest Shaktis, whereas the Siddhis can only be manifested after lots of penance, and it diverts us from the path of enlightenment. So now we are going to be seeing the 4 ways, the 4 methods that are used to validate, foolproof, and which are used to verify that these powers manifest from the ultimate space of enlightenment. So there is the Shastra Pramana, which is the source scriptures, the revelations from Paramashiva directly, like the Vedas and the Agamas, and any other scriptures that have been revealed directly by Paramashiva, like the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, Guru Gita, and all of these scriptures which have been directly revealed by Paramashiva are the Vedagamas. Thus we have the Apta Pramana, which is the experiences of the various rishis, incarnations, and the enlightened masters who have come even as recent as Satya Sai Baba or Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and all these great beings who have walked this planet and taught humanity that there is a science behind becoming Paramashiva. Then we have the Atma Pramana, which are the time-tested, foolproof experiences of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. Because every time the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism had thing, he verifies it with the Shastra Pramana, the source scriptures, and then with the Apta Pramana, which are the experiences of the various enlightened beings who have come before us, and he verifies it with that, and after that he shares it to the world as his Atma Pramana. Then there's the Pratyaksha Pramana, which is the scientific study on these powers. So now we are going to be seeing who's the source and from where do these Shaktis manifest. These Shaktis manifest from the source of Paramashiva. Paramashiva is the primordial divinity in Hinduism, the ultimate reality, cause, pervading everything, unchanged beyond time and space, and he is the fundamental base of the manifest and the unmanifest, and he creates this whole cosmos through the 5 actions of the Panchakritya, which is the sustenance, which is the creation, sustenance, rejuvenation, pulling out of delusion and liberation. Next is the ultimate truth about the Shaktis, which is when a powerful cognition is understood and which is settled inside us, that time it manifests through any human as the Shaktis. Now we are going to be seeing this detailed references for each of the Pramanas. So first the Shastra Pramana for the power of the third eye, which is is from the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. The third eye is not just a third eye which we use to read through the blindfold, but the third eye is the center of the will. And it is the center where Paramashiva revives and creates this whole reality for us. And the Bhairava Tantra, the 34th Sutra. And in this verse, Paramashiva says, Kapala antarmano nyasa tishtanmilita lochanaha kramena manaso dhadyat lakshayet lakshyamuttamam. The translation is, by having the mind fixed on the inner space with the crown inside the crown center and sitting stably without any movement, having the eyes in succession to the third eye, by that stability of the mind and the inner space, one has the vision of the ultimate goal, Lakshyam, and is able to see any object or place beyond the sight, and he attains oneness with the source, Paramashiva. So here we can see how Paramashiva is telling us that when the third eye manifests, they have the ultimate oneness with Paramashiva. Next is the opposites of various incarnations, enlightened masters who have come before us. So here the Apta Pramana is from the Mahabharata, and in the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagavan Shri Krishna initiates Arjuna into the science of the third eye. So Arjuna had asked Bhagavan Shri Krishna that he wanted to see the cosmic form of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. And at that time, Bhagavan Shri Krishna had initiated Arjuna into the third eye, because Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, you cannot see my cosmic form with these physical eyes of yours. Therefore, I initiate you into the third eye, and through that eyes you can have the cosmic form of mine. So this is the direct translation of the 8th verse of the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And after this initiation, Bhagavan Shri Krishna reveals the ultimate Vishwarupa Darshana, and Arjuna is able to see that and gives a detailed description in a very poetic meter and sings the glory of. Then we have the Atma Pramana, the experience of the Supreme Pandava of Hinduism. So in his own words, the Supreme Pandava of Hinduism says, the first experience that I was able to see everything around me, above me, below me, the whole 360 degrees and the 10 directions. Not only I was able to see, I was able to feel that everything was me. So this is his direct experience, which is exactly matching with the Shastra Pramana. Next we have the Pratyaksha Pramana, which is a scientific study on the third eye. So here we can see the Supreme Pandava of Hinduism itself undergoing the positron emission tomography test, where they are measuring the activity that is happening in the brain. And then when the Supreme Pandava of Hinduism had opened his third eye, the machine had given readings which showed high amount of energy in the frontal lobe, where the third eye is, where we depict the third eye. And this same readings have been replicated in all the balasans and the yogis who have also undergone these kind of brain scans.
Yes, thank you so much, Paramesha Maharaj. We are going to be now looking at the next Shastra Pramana. So Paramesha Maharaj is going to be doing the power of consciousness over matter, demonstrating the power with the grace and blessings of the Supreme Pandava of Hinduism. So I'll just quickly go over the Shastra Pramana for this power of consciousness over matter. Kvachid vastuni vinyasya shaineerdrishtam nivartayet tajnanam chinta sahitam devi shunyalayo bhavet. Bhagavan Paramashiva says, having fixed one's eyes on a particular object, vastu, one would slowly withdraw the sight from the object, as well as slowly eliminate the knowledge of that object along with the thought and impressions of it. Then, O Devi, one abides in Shunya, the state where there is nothing other than this exists, which is the state of the all inclusiveness of infinity. So, this is the Shastra Pramana of the power of consciousness over matter. And so now we're going to be seeing a live demonstration of this power of consciousness over matter, where Paramesha Maharaj will be connecting with Swamiji and chanting the Mahavakya mantra. And through this power of feeling connection or of oneness, being in oneness with the avatar, with the master, Paramesha Maharaj is going to manifest this power now.
Yes, so now we can see the Atma Linga, which we are going to be using to manifest the power of consciousness over matter. And we can also see a tissue paper, which I'll be showing you in a minute how we'll be using it. And you can also see my hand here, so that there is no kind of any object which can be used to pull the Atmalinga or make any movement in the Atmalinga. So you can see that there's no kind of glue or no kind of strings which are there. So you can see till my wrist also. And now I'm going to be placing the Atmalinga on my hand. And here we have this tissue paper. So why I had this tissue paper was so that you can see it's just a blank tissue paper and there is nothing inside this tissue paper. So I'm just folding it, and now I'm placing the Atmalinga on my hand, and as I rotate this tissue paper around the Atmalinga, you can see that there is no movement which is being caused by the tissue paper. Even when the tissue paper is moving around, you can see that there is no movement. So you can be assured that there's no kind of strings or anything that is tied to the Atmalinga also. So now I'll be chanting the Mahavakya, and even when the manifestation is happening, I'll be again showing to you that there is nothing which is tied next to the Atmalinga. And this is the best time we can take to create any reality in our life, because when we connect with Paramashiva, we are creating the space for Paramashiva to flow through us. And when we create a space for Paramashiva to flow through us, we are literally creating all the realities that we want, because Paramashiva is the one who creates this whole cosmos. And when we are in oneness with him, automatically he starts flowing through us and the creation manifests. This whole cosmos is created by Paramashiva, and when we are in oneness with him, that energy starts to flow through us, because every second we are creating this whole thing, the whole cosmos that we are seeing around us, this whole space that we are seeing around us. Because science proves that every molecule, every atom is 99.999% of space, and only that 0.0001% is matter. So to create this whole surroundings that we see, it is the direct flow of Paramashiva. But because we are put in delusion, we put our own self in delusion, we start to believe that this whole thing is a hard existence. So when we allow Paramashiva to flow through us, we can really allow that energy which flows through us continuously to be focused on the goals that we want to create, because those goals become Paramashiva's goals and Shiva's Sankalpam becomes Mama Sankalpam. So from that same space, we can now enter into the manifestation. You can also manifest the same power with me. I will be entangling. When you manifest with the initiated disciples of Paramashiva, automatically we are creating a space for the direct of Paramashiva to happen. So now I'll be chanting the Mahavakya, and all the viewers can also join along with me and and let's enter into the manifestation. Om Nithyananda Paramashivoham. 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 So now we have seen the beautiful manifestation of the Atmalinga rolling.
So much, Paramesha Maharaj. That is such a beautiful demonstration where just by connecting with Swamiji, by chanting the Mahavakya mantra, Paramesha Maharaj, being in the space of oneness with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, with Swamiji, was able to make his will and become one with the Atmalinga. And the decision of his will, he was able to align it to the decision to the Atmalinga and manifest the will, manifest the power of consciousness over matter. These are just one of the many powers listed in the Vedagamas. Paramashiva lists a total of 463 powers, which is possible by any individual. All that is needed is just the simple integrity with the master. That is the beauty of Paramashiva's Shaktis. It is only the integrity which we have with Swamiji, which we have with the Avatar, which we have with Paramashiva, which is enough to manifest these powers. And like how Paramesha Maharaj had earlier shared in the program, when we were giving the introduction about the power manifestation science, Shaktis only lead you further and further towards you realizing your space of oneness, you becoming one with the cosmos, becoming one with Paramashiva. And what better way to understand and be in the space of oneness with Swamiji than today, when we're going to be having the direct darshan, the Bhava Samadhi darshan of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhava Samadhi of Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam. And so, as we enter into the next part of the segment, we're going to be learning about the advent of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, advent of the Avatar, on it, how Swamiji happened, the story and Leela of that. After that, it's going to be followed by a simple meditation process to allow us, to help us and raise our frequency to that of Swamiji and open ourselves up so that we can have the full benefit of the Bhava Samadhi Darshan. As we enter into this video, we request the viewers, all our participants, to sit straight, have your head, neck, and spine in a straight line. Move from the space of hearing to listening. When we hear, we are not in listening. It is only in the space of listening our being opens up, and whatever we cognize, whatever input is given to us at that moment becomes part of our being. It becomes part of our cognition. And so now, as we enter into the satsang, let us all move from the space of hearing to listening so that we can imbibe completely. Please take a few minutes if you need to. Close the door, get rid of all other distractions, and just sit in the deep space of listening with restful awareness as we enter into the satsang.
Why incarnations happen on the planet Earth? Ramakrishna says beautifully. There was a big, beautiful garden with so many trees, with so many variety of flowers, with so many variety of fruits. 3 friends were walking near the garden. There was a big wall. One friend climbed that wall, saw the garden. Oh God, such a beautiful garden. He just jumped inside the garden and started enjoying. The second guy climbed the wall and saw the garden. He felt so beautiful, but he had a little bit of courtesy. He turned and said, "My dear friend," the friend who is below, he said, "My dear friend, there is a beautiful garden, come, I am going." He jumped and started enjoying the garden. The third guy, he climbed the wall. He saw the beautiful garden and he saw his 2 friends enjoying, and he understood the joy and the bliss which they are enjoying. Then he decided, no, I will go all my people. There is such a beautiful garden and I will bring them all, make them enjoy this garden. The man who comes down is incarnation. Divine descends from the divine is incarnation. The person who comes back to the planet Earth to tell you about the divinity, to make you realize what he experienced, is he is called incarnation. Scientist is a person who creates a formula to understand the things of the outer world. For example, Newton saw something happening in his garden. He saw the apple falling from a tree. Suddenly some understanding came to him. He understood something. Why this is falling? What is happening? Why it should not go up? Why it is coming down? He started thinking. Some understanding happened to him. The glimpse of truth happened to him at that moment. Immediately, he analyzed, created a formula so that everybody can understand what is happening when things fall. Theory of gravity. He created a formula. Scientist is a person who creates formula for the outward things, for the things of the outer world. Same way, mystic, spiritual mystic, enlightened person is a person, master is a person who creates the formula to reproduce the inner world experiences. Scientist creates a formula to reproduce the outward experience, the outer world experience. Master is a person who creates a formula to reproduce the experiences of the inner world. Meditation techniques are the formulas. Incarnation is a person who can directly give the experience without even using the formula. All these great incarnations are coming down to the planet Earth to give the spiritual experience, to make people realize that they are divine, to make people experience they are God, to tell the people the other side is beautiful, there is a very big garden, come let's go and enjoy. Incarnation is a person who has come down, descended to teach divinity to the world.
The magara, crocodile, fish, all these jivas, they lay the egg, the banks of the river, close it with mud, just by the constant remembrance, hatches the egg. Please understand. The Brahmi, B, makes one into B by the sound, teachings. The hen makes the egg into chicken by the physical presence, touch, initiation. Keeping in the breathing space an initiation, the physical touch. Magara, crocodile, tortoise, fish, all of them hatch the egg and make the egg into fish or crocodile or tortoise just by remembrance. Master hatches you through all these three. Through his teachings, first level. Through the initiation, second level. Through constant remembrance of you, wherever you are, he hatches you into a new being. He makes you into very his self. First, the words, teachings, then the touch, sparsha, initiation, then wherever you are, because constantly you are connected to him, how you remember him, he goes on remembering you. I can see very clearly. Millions of people are living inside this body. Whoever is remembering, they are all living inside this body. Each cell is responding independently to all the people who are remembering this body. That is why the enlightened beings, the incarnations, will be available in the form of Divya Sarira even after they leave the body. When they give initiation to a disciple, they take a vow. Till you become enlightened, I will be available to you even if I leave the body. That is why when the masters leave the body, their Divya Sarira will be available in Aksharadama, means the imperishable space. Aksharadama is the gateway of Kshara and Akshara, perishable and non-perishable. It is the gateway of form and formlessness.